decided on this topic, I thought, you know, IELTS is kind of a niche topic, not many people are going to be interested, so I'll get a small crowd. And then I discovered that they put me in this room, in the NTC, with 125 seats. And I'm glad to see that most of those seats are full. So as Nikki said, I'm working in Israel, and about a year ago I was tasked with restarting our teaching English business. We had a teaching centre, British Council had a teaching centre that closed about 8 years ago, and we started up teaching general English again. So I was fresh out of my master's in online and distance education. So I said, okay, this is my opportunity. I'm building everything from scratch and doing everything blended. So one of the first courses that we opened with was IELTS. And I started to think about what I wanted to do with the IELTS course. One of the videos that inspired me was a video by Khan, from the Khan Academy, Salman Khan. Who's watched it? Okay, so your homework is to watch it, and he talks about the flipped classroom. So after that, I looked into, after watching it's a TED Talk. After watching that TED Talk, I then looked into a book called The Flipped Classroom Approach by Bergman and Sams. And they talk about reaching every student every day. This is the answer to everything, the flipped classroom approach. So we'll discuss that today. Is it the answer to everything? We're going to reach every learner all the time, every day. Okay, and specifically we're talking about IELTS learners, but this, of course, we can see how it can be adapted to other classes. Okay. So I hope by the end of the workshop, you'll have a think about what you think the flipped classroom is. We'll discuss different ideas of what the flipped classroom approach is. Think about questions we should ask ourselves when we prepare to flip our IELTS or general English courses, and discuss tools and resources that you can use to flip your classroom. Okay, we're going to start with an activity that was inspired by one of my colleagues here, Jane. Where's Jane? She was here. Oh, she's over there in the corner. Okay, so Jane used this activity a million times, so it's embedded. It's called 3-2-1 Bridge. It's a Harvard thinking technique. And I'm going to split you into two groups. There's going to be a high-tech group. Hands up those of you who have internet-enabled devices working. Okay, great. Okay, you are the high-tech group. No pressure, no pressure. We have plan B. Okay, and you're going to do an activity on the Line08 website. This is the URL, and there's a QR code there as well, if that's helpful. The low-tech group, you're going to have real post-it notes. Okay, and my colleagues Jane at this side and Helen at this side will give post-it notes to any of you who are low-tech. You can do this activity as individuals or in pairs. Okay? Now for the task. I'm going to put up the URL again. Okay. You're going to write 3 things you know about the flipped classroom, 2 questions you have about the flipped classroom, and a definition for what you think the flipped classroom is. Okay, one of those on each post-it note. And my lovely colleagues are going to give to the low-tech people, and this is for the techies. This is your link. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to do this activity. 2 minutes. before? Okay, a few of you? Yeah? So this is one of them. There are other ones. This is quite handy to get instant feedback from your students, especially if you have a lot of them. So there's the high-tech version, or also the low-tech. The low-tech I could also gather and stick up on a wall. The students could stick up on a wall, and I have an idea then what they know about the topic, what questions they have, and move on from there. So this is one activity. So you can see, I like the way we added in some pink post-its there for disruptive questions, apparently. So that's a nice adaptation of the activity. I like it. Okay. Okay. So thank you for your contributions. We'll go back to that at the end. So the flipped classroom approach. I'm not going to. This is supposed to be a workshop, which means I don't stand here and lecture you and tell you what the flipped classroom approach is. It means you have to find out for yourselves. Okay? Yeah, I know. Okay, which means we have to do a jigsaw activity. Have to. We're doing. So in the task, in your jigsaw task, we have the two questions. What is the flipped classroom, according to the material that you're exposed to? What tools and resources can you use to flip your class? Okay? Right. Now, techies. Where are the techies? Hands up. Oh, there are definitely more techies than last time. Be honest. Okay. Low tech. Okay. Right. So, the techies, those that have internet-enabled devices, I'm going to ask you to look at an infographic, and this is the URL for that infographic. The low tech, you're going to watch a video. Now, there's a bit of a challenge. How do the high-tech people watch a video? No, the high-tech people read something, while the low-tech people watch a video. Any suggestions?
They go outside.
Yes! Okay, so please, can the high-tech people take your internet-enabled devices, whether that's a phone or your iPad, and please follow Helen outside. If you don't have this URL, she'll give it to you outside, or a QR code she also has. For this activity to work, a jigsaw activity, we do need people nice techie people, to volunteer from this side. Nobody standing yet? To go and read the infographic. Thank you, nice techie people. And you have 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes to do it.
The flipped classroom, the full picture as it's being discussed.
Okay, they gone? Do you want me to close the door? Yeah.
The flipped classroom.
They're cheating. See, usually they have the advantage. Didn't think about the door issue.
They can't figure out how to close the door, so you might as well just press the base.
Okay, I'll go.
I'm not too loud because it next door to the presentation.
Okay, let me know.
The full picture.
Let?
I can control the volume.
Okay, please, that would be great.
As it's being discussed here, is not about watching videos as homework. It becomes a fuller, deeper cycle of learning with personal connections to the content as well as to the bigger learning community. The learning tasks become engaging, relevant, authentic, joy-producing. These can include working with friends, the use of technology, project-based learning, making real-world connections, using physical movement, student choice, and visuals. It has its foundations in an experiential cycle of learning, and this cycle has been tweaked to include modern-day technologies such as video lectures, internet resources, and Web 2.0 tools. begins with an experience such as a game, a simulation, an experiment, a community project, an art activity. And then it leads to concept exploration. This is the what. And this is explored through watching videos, listening to podcasts, visiting websites, or engaging in online chats. The online resources, these videos and websites, they support and strengthen the learning. The flip comes as they become a support rather than central to the learning, as well as they're put into the learner's hands for their own control and access and viewing. There are a lot of online resources and that you've probably heard of: Khan Academy, YouTube, iTunes University, TED Talks, or the educator can create his or her own talks and explanations via screen capture tools. Then comes meaning making from the experiences and the concepts that were covered. This is known as the so what. Reflections occur through blogging, video reflections, voice reflections, photo essays. And then it ends with how will all this learning be demonstrated and applied. This is known as the now what. It's the big overreaching learning. The learners answer questions such as how can I show others what I've learned, and how will I apply what I've learned to other areas of my life. This occurs through an authentic audience. And because it is a cycle of learning, the cycle goes on with these phases. The flipped classroom, the full picture, as it's being discussed here, is not about watching videos.
Okay. Thank you very much, techies. Okay, so now can you please, the techies, please pair up or group up with the low tech and discuss these two questions. Anyone? Any volunteers? Yeah, great.
For me, looking at the video, it was too fast for me to actually kind of comprehend anything. And then looking at the
Infographic.
Yeah, infographic. You could go more at your own pace, read, and more fully understand.
Okay, and what was your understanding?
Oh, I didn't get to read it, but
Okay, but good to get feedback on the activity itself. Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else? Yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
I think, in a way, you kind of give a definition, full cycle of learning. By cycle, even if you want in a physical way, where you're not constricted only to the classroom, but you can go on outside the classroom using content and tools that are universally accessible, such as YouTube, TED Talks, etc. And then you share the information and you share your knowledge or your understanding of what you're learning with peers in your own time, outside the classroom as well as inside the classroom. So as a continuous process that doesn't really have a beginning or an end, but it continues and develops.
Great, thank you. I like that one. I like the cycle idea. Anyone else want to add anything? Yeah.
The video mentioned the experiential learning cycle, starting with a concrete experience, which I think was the what, and then there was the analysis is the next stage, which is the so what, or what does it mean, or something like that. And then we might have missed one in the middle, and then there was a what now, which is the hypothesizing, experimentation, although I'm not too sure how that fits into the Flint classroom.
Okay. And did everybody manage to talk to the other, somebody who read the infographic, looked at the infographic, yeah? Because there was slightly different information in both of those materials, which is the jigsaw, yeah? So if you didn't get a chance, you can have a look at these later on. Okay, so I really like the cycle definition, but I have two more definitions. The first definition is that flipped classroom inverts traditional teaching methods. So the instruction is given outside of class, and then the practice, the homework that in a traditional classroom, it's go home and do those exercises, go home and do that writing, you do that in class. Okay? And that's probably how it initially started, I think, thinking about a class where the teacher is the lecturer and speaks to the class. That can very easily be taken out of the class and filmed and then given for homework. But the problem with that, well, it's not a problem, is that that's hopefully not what you see in an English classroom. Okay, it's not usually what we see in an English classroom. It might be for other topics. So a later definition that people talk about now is it's about input versus output. So the input is done at home, and the output, practicing writing, practicing speaking, is done in class. Okay? So when we're thinking about IELTS, why did I want to flip the classroom with IELTS? Because I found IELTS still very traditional. The teacher is the expert. She or he knows exactly what you need to do in the IELTS exam. He or she will tell the students what you need to do. And they do practice in class, and there are pair work, there is group work, but then they do the writing at home. And then there's limited time in the courses that we teach, they're very short, so there's limited time for them to practice speaking. So this is one of the reasons I thought about using the flipped classroom technique for IELTS. I've got to get you to talk just one more time. And I want you to think about an IELTS class or course that you would consider flipping. And with the person beside you, or people beside you, think what questions, not what would you do, what questions would you ask yourself when you're thinking about doing this? You want to plan to do an IELTS class or an IELTS course, and you want to flip it. Think about, output in class, input outside of class. Okay, I'll give you 2 minutes to talk to the person beside you. Okay, so any sort of questions from your pairs? Yeah.
How do you intrinsically motivate people when they're not in the classroom? So, for example, myself, if I'm studying something, I'll study something I'm good at studying, and I'll shy away from the stuff I know is difficult until I'm forced to do it. So how do you control that kind of thing?
Okay.
We kind of discussed that. I think a way around that is to base the classroom activities so heavily on what they're supposed to do outside the class. that it becomes a big disadvantage when they don't do the work outside.
Okay. Do you have any ideas to answer that question?
No.
Here.
Sorry?
That's why
That's
we're
why you're
here.
here. I'm not gonna, it's a workshop, I can't give you one.
If some of the work that the students would do outside of class involved language focus, clarification, I wonder if it limits the approaches that can be taken. I wonder if it means that more of a deductive approach might be required rather than an inductive approach which can work better in a classroom.
Yeah, where the student can actually participate and ask questions and the teacher can check.
Well, the teacher can not do a lot except monitor and provide input only when required and guide.
Yeah.
That was a question.
That was a question. Okay, does somebody want to answer? Now, I'm going to go through some of my questions and hopefully it'll answer some of your questions and we can think about together the answers to the others. Somebody else had a question? Yeah.
Yeah, how do you cope with the work speed within the class? If you've got fast finishers who've done all the work and extra in the flipped classroom, do you end up then dedicating your classroom time to slower students and maybe neglecting students who are coping, let's say, or are managing? And I think that balance is going to be really hard.
Okay. I'm going to
quite right.
That's one question I will try to answer later on. Hi.
Yeah, I'm just interested to know about the material that you need to prepare using this approach beforehand. It requires, I think, a lot of work of uploading material, exercising activities. Or what about the use of a Moodle that can be used across the institute?
Okay, one more.
We actually had a couple of questions. First of all, how would the students react to this? Would they still see the value in coming and sitting in a classroom and paying full amount that we charge in a flipped situation? And secondly, how is it different from setting homework, which can include input as well, like read these strategies?
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go to my questions. I'm going to go to my questions, which will answer some of these. But regarding your first question, which was repeated again? No, repeat your first question.
Sorry,
yeah.
The students, how would they see this as a worthwhile exercise?
Yeah. My experience with it is that they. You're talking here about IELTS students. I've done this with general English and I've done it with IELTS. IELTS, it's been more, it's been easier because they are super motivated. They need this exam. They need to do the homework. They'll do the homework, So with IELTS, it's easier. With general English, I found there is a problem with motivating them to go online. And we're still working on it. And I haven't given up on it. I just think we need to be a bit cleverer about how we do it. I'm going to go through some of the questions that myself and the teacher who helped me with preparing for the flipping came up with. So we thought about what are the learning objectives of the course and what are the learners' needs. So the course that we teach in the British Council, it's only 16 hours long. Each session is 4 hours, 4 meetings in 4 hours. So really, there's no language. It's survival, get through the IELTS. And the main needs of the students were writing and speaking. So we wanted to think how could we maximise and help them improve more on their writing and their speaking in class. So the problem to which flipping is the solution is that we found that we didn't dedicate much time to speaking in class. It was kind of put to the side. Anyway, they can't improve that, so we'll just go through 10 minutes of what's in the exam and that's it. And with the writing, again, it was assigned for homework. There was some instruction in class, but they didn't do practice in class and therefore didn't get feedback from the teacher. Only afterwards, and they might grade it and underline their grammar mistakes or something. Challenges, the homework one. 99% of the students did their homework. How can we motivate them to do their homework if they don't want to? What if they don't do their homework? If they don't do their homework, we always had review sessions. So anyone who missed out, I remember one student had technical problems and couldn't do their homework. So that's an issue. So there's review sessions with the students in groups to go over what they did for the homework before you go on to the output part, which is the practice part. What input sessions could be given for homework? So for the input sessions, we gave things like, before they started the course, we gave them an overview of the IELTS exam that they had to look at, or an overview of the listening, or techniques for the writing part of the exam. And existing resources and tools. With IELTS, you're quite lucky because there are a lot of things online. Things we used were YouTube videos. For example, there's British Council Teacher Trainer, somebody who uploaded videos on the IELTS exam. Road to IELTS. We give our students access to Road to IELTS before the course starts. And there's a lot of material there that we can give our students. So again, it's ready-made. And there's a few things on the Learn English website as well, the British Council Learn English website. So there were the three main things that we used. Sixth question were, what resources do we need to create? I actually thought initially we would have to create a lot of materials ourselves, and found that we didn't have to create too many. But the teacher who was teaching the class, he was a bit concerned about using technology. He was on board about the project, so we decided that he would be in contact with the students by email and just send them the links by email. We kept it very low tech, yeah. But things that you could do, other teachers have done in general English is used Edmodo, used Wiki. You can create a course on Moodle, and for filming, the teacher can film themselves and do a missing section that you'd like to do for class for your students to watch at home. You can probably think of this is very limited. What other tools, resources do you know of that you could use?
Libraries, blogs. I do all our writing is done on blogs.
On blogs?
Yeah, and that way the students over a long time period, they can go back and see their progression in their writing, see what their mistakes, what common mistakes. They can also read each other's essays on exactly the same topic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been a very good tool for us.
Great. Okay. Yeah.
Maybe this is an old idea, but exchanging things with other colleagues is a nice way of having more resources. Just talked about that in our group. If I do something and you do something, then we exchange. We have two things.
Yeah.
So what about if we have several teachers in the center, whatever? So that means a lot of resources.
Yeah, and you can pair up with teachers and share the load if you need to.
Could have a bank of ideas,
materials.
bank of things,
exactly.
and that helps a lot.
Okay, great. Anything else? Yeah.
I use Facebook. I have groups for every one of my classes. So the students have private groups, they can talk privately or publicly. But it also allows me to follow things like the British Council, like FloJo, all the IELTS resources, and get them to my students quickly with like an exercise 2 or 3 times a week. And they submit essays to Facebook, and then each other, they do competitions, they judge whose is the best essay.
Mm-hmm.
But they're all used to using Facebook, so it's not as difficult for them just to add me.
Yeah.
I have 2 Facebook accounts.
Yeah.
The public and the private.
Yeah.
Recommend that. But it works brilliantly.
Yeah.
I don't do enough with it, I should do more.
Well, that's one of the reasons actually I asked the teachers to use Edmodo, because of not using their personal Facebook account. And Edmodo is very similar to Facebook.
With university students.
What it looks like.
Yeah. Well, with university students, what we're finding with my first year, my proper university students who are doing a full undergraduate course, they're using Facebook. If they do a presentation in class, they have stored it on Facebook, they have discussed it in their groups on Facebook, they upload it from Facebook, no USB sticks or anything anymore. So it's more going to what they're comfortable with using rather than trying to get them to use yet another package that they don't see the point of.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, one more? Yeah.
Sort of in response to people's questions about what if technology fails and online resources are not available, I use it with students and send them to libraries. Yes, they do exist. we have a library in our school. They have resource packs. We have, get them to use newspapers, get them to use, subscribe. If they're living in the country for a year in England, subscribe to The Economist or subscribe to something that is interesting to them, and they've done it that way, and it's a life skill that they gain as well.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, and the last question is, which somebody asked, is how do we make better use of classroom time, and what if we have earlier finishers, what do we do with the classroom time? So I want to show you, so everybody can watch a video this time, a quick video about an idea of how to use classroom time.
I had a big problem, and I noticed it specifically last year. I have 3 different levels of learners. I had this group of really high achieving students. They were frustrated because they could do more at a quicker pace, and then I had good students who still needed more time with the material. So I decided that the flipped videos would let some of my students move on and progress at a quicker pace, and they didn't need me on top of them, teaching them and lecturing at them.
The reason I think this works so well is that it lets the students who work at a fast pace, work at a fast pace, and it lets the students who don't work at a fast pace, they can go at their own pace.
We kind of learn at like a slower pace instead of having one big group and kind of getting confused.
You can get like that one-on-one with the teacher and get more help on whatever you need help with. We self-advocate for ourselves, we take more responsibility, and we form a group, and we're more responsible for our learning.
That if you don't understand something, you can spend more time on it, and which helps you clearly understand.
It's a lot more independent than usual. Like you have to watch the video, you have to learn. Instead of having her lecture you and just sit there, you have to go and find out if you don't understand something.
So they are all doing something different on a day-to-day basis. One group is, for example, right now in chapter 10, about to finish the book. Another group of students is just now coming up on chapter 8. And then I have a group of 8th graders who just started Spanish, and they're really sharp kids, but they've only been here for a couple of months. So the flipped classroom has allowed these really high learners, or quicker, they're quicker with the grammar, they're quicker with the vocabulary, they've gone on at their own pace, and my students that need a little more time with the material have continued on at a very normal pace. It's really solved the problem of having different kinds of learner needs in my room.
Okay, so I have to confess, so this is called, basically what Sams and Bergman started with was the flipped approach, and then they moved to something that they call the flipped mastery model, which is about which Khan also talks about in the TED Talk, which is about students mastering something and moving on once they've mastered it, rather than in class, student A has mastered it, student B is almost there, and student C has no idea, but yet you move on. Okay? So this talks about using class time to have different groups and doing different activities. Now, I have a confession. I haven't got there yet myself. Okay? I won't lie to you. So the teacher that did teach this flipped approach kept class time traditional, used it for more practice, and hasn't gone to this approach, but that's the next stage of what I do want to do, and see how that works, because we have, and I'm sure most of you have heterogeneous classes. We have Russian speakers who need, input, need practice with their speaking. We have Hebrew speakers whose speaking is amazing and their writing needs a lot of work. So you have those classes, and to be able to cater for their needs, this is something that I think we should try. Okay. Oh, my time is up. Okay. So, last thing. 3, 2, 1. I'm not going to ask you to write anything, but have a think to yourselves. 3 things you now know about Flipped Classroom. Has the workshop answered your questions? If not, sorry, you might have to do some research. You can come ask me questions afterwards. And do you have a different definitions of what Flipped Classroom is from the very start of the workshop? Thank you very much.